The toy store smelled like plastic dreams and fresh cardboard. Bright balloons floated near the ceiling, their strings dancing in the air conditioning, and shelves overflowed with dolls, puzzles, stuffed animals, and glittering boxes that promised happiness. Shiny letters. Children ran between aisles with squeals of excitement, tugging at parents' sleeves, pointing at things they couldn't live without for at least the next 5 minutes. Emma Carter stood still in the middle of it all, holding her purse tightly against her chest as if it were armor. She had been saving for 3 months, 3 months of skipping coffee, 3 months of walking to work instead of taking the bus, 3 months of pretending she wasn't tired, all for one thing. A white and lavender Victorian dollhouse displayed in the center aisle, 3 floors, tiny chandeliers, real wooden staircases, miniature porcelain dishes. It was the exact dollhouse Lily had pressed her nose against the window to admire 2 weeks ago. "I don't need it, Mommy," Lily had said softly, even though her eyes shimmered with longing. "It's just really, really beautiful." That was Lily, 8 years old and already learning how to shrink her wishes to fit their budget. Emma wouldn't allow that. Not this year. Not after everything. Her fingers traced the price tag again. It hurt to look at it. It represented rent, anxiety, and overtime shifts and swallowed pride, but it also represented Lily's smile. And that made it priceless. She lifted the heavy box into her cart and pushed it toward the checkout counter, her heart beating faster, not from fear, but from the quiet triumph of a mother who refuses to fail her child. The store wasn't busy at this hour. Just one register was open. Behind it stood a young man, mid-20s perhaps, pale and thin, with tired eyes that looked older than his face. His name tag read ***, Marcus***. He didn't smile like cashiers usually do. He watched her, not rudely, not casually, intently. Emma forced a polite nod and placed the dollhouse on the counter. "For my daughter," she said, unable to hide the softness in her voice. Marcus's eyes dropped to the box. Something shifted in his expression, recognition, alarm. "That's a beautiful gift," he said quietly. "She deserves it." He began scanning the barcode. The machine beeped sharply in the quiet store. Beep, beep, beep. Each sound felt strangely loud. Marcus swallowed. "You're Emma Carter, right?" Emma stiffened. "Yes," she said slowly. "Do I know you?" He hesitated. His fingers trembled slightly as they hovered over the register. "You're attending the birthday party tonight, at the Carter residence." It wasn't a question. A chill crept up Emma's spine. "How do you know that?" Marcus looked over his shoulder. There was no one nearby. Then suddenly, shockingly, he reached across the counter and grabbed her arm. His grip wasn't painful, but it was urgent, desperate. "Don't go." He whispered harshly, "Don't go to the party, under any circumstances." Emma's heart slammed against her ribs. "What are you doing? Let go of me." His fingers tightened slightly. "They're planning something. You don't understand. You and your daughter. You can't go there." Her breath caught. Marcus shook his head frantically, as if fighting with himself. "I shouldn't even be saying this. I'm already in trouble. But please listen to me. If you love your daughter, don't take her to that house tonight." Emma yanked her arm free. Security cameras blinked overhead. Her mind scrambled to make sense of what was happening. This was absurd. This was a toy store. This was a cashier. And yet his eyes weren't wild. They were terrified. "Are you threatening me?" she demanded, anger rising to cover the fear crawling beneath her skin. "No," he whispered urgently. "I'm trying to save you." "From what?" He opened his mouth, but before he could answer, a store manager rushed over. "Marcus, step away from the customer." Marcus stepped back immediately, hands raised, but his eyes never left Emma. "Don't go," he said again, louder now. "Please, you'll regret it." The manager apologized profusely, offering Emma a discount for the inappropriate behavior. Marcus was escorted toward the back room, still looking over his shoulder, still shaking his head, still trying to warn her. Emma stood frozen for several seconds. Her arm tingled where he had touched her. "You'll regret it." Her mind raced through possibilities. Was he unstable, obsessed, mistaken, or was he telling the truth? She forced herself to breathe. This was ridiculous. The party was being hosted by her ex-husband, Daniel Carter. Daniel could be arrogant, cold, manipulative, but dangerous, surely not. He had insisted Lily's 8th birthday be celebrated at his mansion this year. She deserves something grand, he'd said smoothly, something worthy of the Carter name. Emma had hesitated. She didn't trust him, but custody agreements were delicate things, and Daniel had powerful lawyers. Refusing could have consequences. Besides, it was just a party, just cake, just guests, just a few hours. Right, the register beeped again, pulling her from her thoughts. The manager finished the transaction, while apologizing repeatedly. Emma paid. Her hands felt colder than they should. As she wheeled the dollhouse toward the exit, the automatic doors slid open with a mechanical sigh. Outside, the sky was turning orange with sunset. Beautiful, calm, normal. She paused. For a moment, just a moment. She considered turning around. Asking more questions, demanding answers. But how would that sound? My ex-husband's former employee warned me not to attend a birthday party. It sounded paranoid, and Daniel had always accused her of being emotional, dramatic, unstable. She wouldn't give him that satisfaction. She loaded the dollhouse into the trunk of her car, sat behind the steering wheel, and stared at her reflection in the rear-view mirror. "You're being silly," she whispered to herself. "It's just nerves. It's just your imagination. It's just a party." Her phone buzzed, a text from Daniel, Daniel, everything is ready, don't be late, the guests are important, important. Not Lily, not their daughter, the guests. Emma's stomach tightened, another buzz, a photo this time. Lily at Daniel's mansion, wearing a pale pink dress, smiling brightly, unaware of tension, unaware of adults and secrets and silent wars. Emma's chest ached, whatever was happening. She would not let Lily see conflict. She would be strong. She would be calm. She would survive one evening. Marcus's voice echoed in her mind again. If you love your daughter. Emma turned the key in the ignition. The engine roared to life. I love her more than anything, she whispered, and she drove toward the mansion, toward the lights, toward the party, toward the regret she didn't yet know was waiting for her. The mansion glowed like something out of a fairy tale. Lights wrapped around the tall iron gates of the Carter estate, shimmering gold against the darkening sky. Valets stood in crisp uniforms, guiding luxury cars into perfect rows. Laughter drifted through the evening air, mixed with the soft notes of a string quartet playing near the entrance. Emma tightened her grip on the steering wheel before stepping out of her modest sedan. She felt small here. Not because she was small, but because this place had been designed to make her feel that way. The Carter mansion had once been her home. Before the divorce, before the accusations, before Daniel decided she was an inconvenience to his image. She straightened her coat and forced her shoulders back. Tonight wasn't about pride. It was about Lily. A valet opened her door. Welcome, MS Carter. Even the staff still called her that. She walked up the grand staircase, each marble step echoing beneath her heels. The doors opened before she could knock, and there he was, Daniel Carter, perfect suit, perfect smile. Perfect posture, his arms spread wide as if welcoming royalty. "Emma," he said warmly, leaning in to kiss the air beside her cheek. "You look well." Translation, "You look ordinary. You look busy," she replied calmly, his smile sharpened slightly. "I always am." The foyer was transformed into a pastel wonderland, pink and gold balloons, crystal chandeliers glittering above a towering birthday cake shaped like a castle. Guests filled the room, business partners, socialites, influencers, people who cared more about photographs than children. Emma scanned the crowd. Where was Lily? As if summoned by her thoughts, a small figure came running down the staircase. "Mommy!" Emma's heart melted instantly. Lily threw herself into her arms, pink dress swirling around her like cotton candy. Her cheeks were flushed with excitement. "You came?" "Of course I did," Emma whispered, holding her tightly. "I would never miss your birthday." For a moment, Everything else disappeared, just the warmth of her daughter. Just the steady rhythm of her tiny heartbeat. Then Daniel cleared his throat. "We have a schedule," he said lightly. "The photographer is ready." Of course he was. Emma noticed it then, the camera crew near the cake. Professional lighting, tripods, not just casual party pictures. This wasn't a birthday party. It was a production. Guests turned to look at her. Some smiled politely. Others whispered behind manicured hands. Emma felt their eyes on her like pins. Daniel guided Lily toward the cake while keeping a firm hand on her shoulder. "Make sure you stand over there," he instructed Emma, subtly positioning her slightly out of frame. Out of the spotlight, out of the picture, the song began. Applause filled the room. Lily blew out her candles, grinning. Emma clapped, smiling through the growing unease twisting inside her stomach. Something was wrong. She couldn't explain it, but she could feel it. After the cake, Daniel clinked a champagne glass for attention. "I have a small announcement," he said smoothly. Emma's pulse quickened. "Tonight isn't just about celebrating my beautiful daughter." He smiled down at Lily, who looked confused but happy. "It's also about celebrating new beginnings." The crowd murmured approvingly. From the staircase descended a tall, elegant woman in a silver dress, Vanessa. Daniel's fiancée. Vanessa's smile was flawless, but her eyes were cold when they met Emma's. Daniel wrapped an arm around her waist. "As many of you know, Vanessa and I are taking the next step in our lives together." Applause erupted. Emma's jaw tightened. This wasn't about Lily at all. It was a showcase, a rebranding, a public display of Daniel's perfect new life. "Family," Daniel continued, voice steady and rehearsed, "is everything to me. Stability, security, a nurturing environment." Emma felt it then. The shift, the tone, subtle, dangerous, and unfortunately, he sighed dramatically. Not all children are fortunate enough to have that from both parents. The room grew quieter. Emma's breath caught. What was he doing? Daniel turned toward her, expression full of false sorrow. "I've tried to remain respectful through difficult circumstances, but as a father, I have a duty to protect my daughter." The whispers grew louder. Emma's heart began to pound in her ears. "Daniel," she said quietly, warning in her voice. But he continued. "There are concerns, emotional instability, episodes that have frightened Lily." Gasps rippled through the guests. Emma felt as though the floor had dropped beneath her. "What are you talking about?" she demanded. Daniel looked pained. "I didn't want to do this tonight, but transparency matters." A man stepped forward from the crowd, someone Emma didn't recognize. "I'm Dr. Henson," he announced. "I've reviewed documentation regarding MS, Carter's recent behavior." Documentation. Emma's mind spun. "That's a lie," she said, voice shaking. "You've never examined me." Daniel placed a protective hand on Lily's shoulder, subtly pulling her away from Emma. "Please," he said gently, "don't make this harder." "Harder?" She looked at Lily. Her daughter's eyes were wide. "Confused, afraid, Mommy," Lily whispered. Emma moved toward her instinctively, but a security guard stepped in front of her. Just slightly, just enough, the room was no longer a party. It was a courtroom, and she was the defendant. "This is insane," Emma said, her voice rising despite her efforts to stay calm. "You planned this." Daniel shook his head sorrowfully. "I was hoping she'd handle this gracefully." There it was, the trap. If she protested, she looked unstable. If she stayed silent, she looked guilty. Her pulse thundered. Marcus's voice echoed in her mind. Asterisk, "Don't go. You'll regret it." Asterisk, she should have listened. Daniel handed a folder to one of the guests, a well-known local journalist. "I believe the truth deserves to be known," he said. The journalist flipped through papers. Emma caught a glimpse. Her name, medical terms, allegations, forged, all forged. "This is defamation," she whispered, but her words sounded weak against the murmuring crowd. Vanessa stepped forward, placing a delicate hand on Lily's shoulder. "We only want what's best for her," she said softly, as if Emma weren't even there. Lily began to cry. That broke something inside Emma. "Stop using her," Emma shouted, pushing past the guard. Gasps filled the room. The guard grabbed her arm firmly this time. "Ma'am, please calm down." "I am calm," she insisted, though tears burned her eyes. "He's lying." Daniel's voice hardened for the first time. "Escort her out." The words sliced through her. Lily screamed, "Don't take Mommy." Emma struggled against the guard's grip, but it only made her look worse. Chaotic, uncontrolled, exactly as Daniel intended, as she was dragged toward the door, she locked eyes with him. And in that moment, just for a second, his mask slipped. No sorrow, no regret, just satisfaction. The doors shut behind her, the music resumed inside, laughter returned, the party continued. Emma stood alone on the driveway, trembling under the cold night sky. Her daughter's cries still echoed in her ears, her reputation shattered, her dignity crushed, her motherhood questioned. And now she understood. The party had never been for Lily. It had been a performance, and she had walked straight onto the stage. Marcus was right. She shouldn't have come. And as the lights of the mansion sparkled behind her like mockery, one terrifying thought settled into her heart. If Daniel was willing to destroy her this publicly, Emma didn't remember driving home. One moment she was standing outside the iron gates of the Carter mansion, Lily's screams echoing in her ears. The next, she was sitting in her apartment parking lot, the engine off, her hands still gripping the steering wheel so tightly her knuckles had turned white. The silence was unbearable. No string quartet, no fake applause, no Daniel, just the hollow sound of her own breathing. Then the tears came, not soft tears, not graceful ones. They tore out of her like something breaking. She pressed her forehead against the steering wheel and sobbed for the humiliation, for the lies, for the look on Lily's face when security pulled her away. Marcus was right. The warning had not been madness. It had been mercy, and she had ignored it. Inside her small apartment, the quiet felt heavier than usual. Lily's shoes were by the door. A half-finished drawing lay on the coffee table. A picture of their little family from years ago. Back when Daniel still smiled in photographs without calculation in his eyes. Emma sank onto the couch. Her phone buzzed, a notification, an article. Asterisk asterisk, businessman Daniel Carter takes brave stand for daughter's well-being. Asterisk asterisk, her stomach twisted. He had moved fast. The story painted him as a devoted father protecting his child from an emotionally unstable ex-wife. Anonymous sources claimed Emma had episodes, that she was volatile, that Lily felt unsafe. It was a public execution. And Daniel had chosen her daughter's birthday as the stage. Her phone buzzed again. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk asterisk, I'm sorry. I tried to stop it. Meet me tomorrow. 9 a.m. Harbor Cafe. Come alone. Marcus asterisk asterisk. Emma stared at the message for a long time. Every instinct told her to be cautious, but another voice, the voice of a mother who had just been robbed of her child, told her she had no choice. The next morning, the city felt gray and drained of color. The Harbor Cafe was small and quiet, tucked near the waterfront. Emma spotted Marcus immediately. He looked worse than the day before, exhausted, eyes rimmed red, constantly glancing over his shoulder. When she approached, he stood quickly. "I'm so sorry," he said before she could speak. She didn't sit. "You knew," she said, her voice steady but cold. "You knew what he was going to do." Marcus nodded slowly. "I used to work for him." That made her pause. In what capacity? Personal assistant, financial records, event planning, damage control. Damage control. The words felt deliberate. "Why were you fired?" she asked. His jaw tightened. "Because I found something I wasn't supposed to." Emma sat down. "Start talking." Marcus took a deep breath. "Daniel isn't just trying to ruin you for revenge. This isn't about pride. Then what is it about? Money?" Emma laughed bitterly. "Of course it is." But Marcus shook his head. "You don't understand. He's drowning." He slid a thin envelope across the table. Inside were printed bank statements, legal notices, overdue balances, large ones, gambling. Marcus said quietly, "Investments that failed, loans he can't repay. He's leveraged almost everything." Emma's heart pounded. Daniel had always cared about status, about appearing powerful. "You're saying he's broke. I'm saying he's desperate." Emma's fingers trembled as she flipped through the papers. Then she saw it. A familiar name. Her mother's estate trust. The inheritance Lily had received after Emma's mother passed away. The money Emma had protected fiercely, ensuring it would remain untouched until Lily turned 18. "That trust can't be accessed," Emma whispered. "Not unless he gains primary custody," Marcus replied. The world tilted, the party, the public humiliation, the stage doctor. It wasn't about embarrassment. It was step one. "If the court deems you unstable," Marcus continued, "he gets control of Lily's financial guardianship." Emma felt sick. He would steal from his own daughter. Marcus met her eyes. "He already has a lawyer preparing emergency custody paperwork. The hearing is in 3 weeks. 3 weeks. Emma's mind raced. "Why help me?" she asked suddenly. "You could walk away." Marcus hesitated. "Because I have a little sister," he said quietly. "And when our father tried to use her in his divorce, no one warned my mom." Silence settled between them. Emma studied him carefully. The fear in his eyes wasn't manipulation. It was guilt. "They're watching you?" she asked. He nodded. "I wasn't supposed to speak to you at the store. Daniel still has connections. If he knows I'm helping, he'll ruin you too," she finished. Marcus gave a small, humorless smile. He already tried. Emma leaned back in her chair. Her humiliation from last night burned in her chest. But beneath it, something else was forming, clarity. Daniel had tried to make her look unstable. He had underestimated one thing. Her love for her daughter was stronger than his greed. "Do you have proof?" she asked. Marcus blinked. "Proof of what?" "Of everything." He hesitated again. "I copied files before I was fired. Audio recordings, financial transfers, emails discussing the party plan." Emma's pulse quickened. "You recorded him." "I was told to document everything," Marcus said. "Daniel likes leverage. I kept my own." For the first time since last night, Emma felt something shift inside her. Not fear, not sorrow, resolve. He wanted a public performance. She said softly. Marcus looked at her cautiously. "Yes, then he'll get one." She gathered the papers carefully, sliding them back into the envelope. "He humiliated me in front of my daughter," she continued, her voice calm but edged with steel. "He tried to paint me as unstable." Her eyes hardened. "Let's see how stable he looks when the truth comes out." Marcus exhaled slowly. "You're not going to run." Emma stood. No, the broken woman from the driveway was gone. In her place stood a mother who had nothing left to lose. "He set a trap," she said quietly, "and now he's going to fall into it." As Emma walked out of the cafe, the wind off the harbor whipped through her hair. The pain was still there. The regret still lingered. She should have listened. But maybe, just maybe, ignoring the warning had shown her exactly who she was fighting. And now she was ready. 3 weeks later, the courtroom was silent enough to hear the ticking of the clock above the judge's bench. Emma sat at the petitioner's table, her hands folded neatly in front of her. She wore a simple navy suit, nothing flashy, nothing dramatic. Her hair was pulled back, her face calm, composed. Across the aisle sat Daniel Carter, perfectly tailored gray suit. Silver watch, polished shoes, perfect image. He didn't look at her when he walked in. He didn't need to. He believed he had already won. Behind him sat Vanessa, elegant and poised, whispering something in his ear that made him smirk faintly. Emma noticed Lily wasn't present. Thank God. This wasn't a place for children. This was war. The judge entered, and everyone rose. The hearing began. Daniel's attorney stood first, confident, theatrical. "Your Honor, we are here today because Mr. Carter has grave concerns about his daughter's emotional safety while in the custody of Ms. Emma Carter. Grave concerns." The words echoed in Emma's chest, but she didn't flinch. The attorney continued, presenting copies of the same fabricated psychological evaluations that had circulated at the birthday party. He referenced witness statements, unpredictable behavior, emotional instability. Daniel lowered his gaze at appropriate moments, playing the wounded father perfectly. The performance would have been impressive if Emma hadn't known the script. When it was her turn, her lawyer, a sharp, observant woman named Rebecca Hall, stood calmly. "Your Honor," Rebecca began, "before we address these allegations, we would like to submit additional evidence to the court." Daniel's lawyer frowned. "What kind of evidence?" Rebecca didn't look at him. "Evidence of financial motive, fraud, and deliberate defamation." A ripple passed through the courtroom. Daniel's head lifted. For the first time, he looked at Emma. She held his gaze, unblinking. Rebecca handed a flash drive to the clerk. "Exhibit A," she said clearly. The courtroom screen flickered to life. An audio file began to play. Daniel's voice filled the room, calm, cold, unfiltered. "Once I establish instability, the judge won't hesitate. Primary custody gives me control of the trust. It's perfectly legal." The room froze. Daniel's attorney stood abruptly. "Objection. Overruled." The judge said sharply, "Continue." The recording continued. "If the party is ideal, public pressure, emotional reaction, she'll make a scene. She always does." Emma felt a strange sensation in her chest. Not pain, not anger, relief, the truth, finally speaking for her. Daniel's face had gone pale. Vanessa's hand slowly slipped from his. Rebecca spoke again. "Exhibit B. Financial records appeared on screen, overdue notices, gambling debts, loan agreements. Numbers no longer hidden behind expensive suits." Gasps whispered through the courtroom gallery. "Mr. Carter." Rebecca continued. "Stands to gain access to the minor child's inheritance trust, if awarded primary custody." The judge's eyes narrowed. "Is this accurate, Mr. Carter?" Daniel's jaw tightened. "This is being taken out of context." Rebecca didn't pause. Exhibit C. An email chain appeared. Daniel's instructions to the fake psychologist. Payment confirmation. The words * public confrontation will strengthen the narrative * highlighted in bold. Silence pressed heavily against the walls. The same man who had smiled beneath chandelier lights now looked cornered. "Your Honor," Rebecca said calmly, "this was never about the child's well-being. It was about financial desperation. My client was deliberately humiliated at her daughter's birthday to provoke a reaction that could be weaponized." The judge leaned forward. "Mr. Carter, do you have any explanation?" Daniel opened his mouth, closed it, looked at his attorney. For once, there was no script, no applause, no stage lighting, just truth. Vanessa stood abruptly from her seat. "You told me you were protecting Lily," she said under her breath, but loud enough for the room to hear. Daniel's composure cracked. "Sit down," he hissed. She didn't. Instead, she picked up her purse and walked out without looking back. The sound of the courtroom doors closing felt symbolic, final. The judge removed his glasses slowly. "Mr. Carter," he said sternly, "this court does not look kindly upon attempts to manipulate custody proceedings for financial gain." Emma's heartbeat slowed. "Steady, certain," the judge continued. "Full primary custody remains with MS. Carter. Mr. Carter's visitation will be supervised pending further review. Additionally, this court will be referring evidence of fraud and perjury to the district attorney." A sharp inhale moved through the room. Daniel's empire wasn't collapsing in flames. It was crumbling quietly, brick by brick, and he could do nothing to stop it. Emma didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She simply closed her eyes for one brief moment. Justice. When the hearing ended, Daniel approached her in the hallway. "Gone was the charm, gone was the polish. You think you've won," he muttered bitterly. Emma looked at him calmly. "No," she said softly. "Lily won." He scoffed. "You ruined me." She tilted her head slightly. "You did that yourself." He stepped closer, anger radiating from him. "You should have stayed quiet." Emma met his glare without fear. "You should have left my daughter out of it." For the first time in years, she saw something in his eyes she had never witnessed before. Powerlessness. She turned and walked away, not running, not shaking, walking. That evening, Emma unlocked the door to her small apartment. The familiar scent of vanilla candles greeted her. Lily ran toward her from the living room. Mommy, Emma knelt, wrapping her daughter in her arms. "Yes, sweetheart. Are we okay?" Lily asked softly. Emma pulled back just enough to look into her eyes. "We're more than okay. Lily studied her carefully. Daddy was mad today." Emma brushed a strand of hair from Lily's face. "Sometimes grown-ups make mistakes when they're scared of losing things," she said gently, "but no one is taking you away from me, ever." Lily hugged her tighter. "I was scared at the party." Emma's chest tightened. "I know, and I'm so sorry you had to see that. Why did Daddy say those things?" Emma swallowed the bitterness rising in her throat. "Because sometimes people try to hurt others when they feel like they're losing control." Lily nodded slowly, as if trying to understand something far too heavy for 8 years old. Emma carried her to the couch, pulling the wrapped dollhouse from behind it. "I think someone still has a birthday present to open." Lily's eyes widened. "You got it," Emma smiled. "I always keep my promises." As Lily tore through the wrapping paper, her laughter filled the apartment, bright, pure, untouched by courtroom battles and shattered reputations. Emma watched her carefully. This was the victory, not Daniel's humiliation, not Vanessa leaving him. Not the legal consequences waiting ahead, but this moment, safety, peace, love. Marcus sent a simple message later that night. Asterisk, it's over. Asterisk, Emma typed back. Asterisk, no, it's just beginning for us. Asterisk, she tucked Lily into bed, kissing her forehead gently. "Mommy, yes, I'm glad you came to the party." Emma paused. She had regretted it so deeply, but now she understood. If she hadn't gone, if she hadn't seen the truth, if she hadn't been publicly broken, she might never have uncovered the depth of Daniel's betrayal. She smiled softly. "So am I." As she turned off the lights, the apartment felt warmer than it ever had. Daniel had tried to take everything from her, her reputation, her dignity, her child. Instead, he had revealed himself. And in doing so, he had handed her the one thing he could never buy back, his downfall. And Emma Carter would never ignore a warning again.